Okay. This is the Thursday, August 6th, 2026 workshop, and I call it to order. And I see we have a quorum. And I would like to, anybody like to move to adopt the agenda?
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Visitor communication. This is the time provided for individuals wishing to address the commission or council regarding issues not already on the agenda. So,
I'm going to be the visitor communication.
oh, okay.
This is a time for, I think, just a good time for me to jump in here. And as the advisory city council member to the planning commission, I think I should jump in here and just make myself available for this meeting. I obviously am not going to stay because you guys are talking annexation stuff, and that's going to come before city council pretty soon. So I won't stay for any of the meeting, but I did want to say that obviously this is a big step through the process of the urban growth boundary. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. You're the audience, so that's good. And obviously there's it's an important part of the process to narrow down these rules because we don't want to be annexing people in without some guardrails on these things. So thanks for doing that. I know the city council itself, we've spent a lot of time on kind of getting at least some of the rules down, but you guys are here to give us some advice on what you think of what we have so far, and then obviously it'll come back to us for final at some point. I don't know if you're finishing that up today or not, but it's been a long process. A lot of you may or may not know I've been working on urban growth boundaries since we adopted the comprehensive plan in 2021. So this has been a long journey, and it's not going to finish while I'm still on council. I'm not running again, and I'm not on the ballot, so I won't be around in January unless there's a crazy write-in campaign for me or
You have
something.
like an hour
So,
to decide, right?
Yeah.
Isn't today the day?
it might be.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that though. At least not the official way.
Yeah.
If 1,000 people write me in, sorry, Rick. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. But honestly, thanks for doing the work. I know, I hope you guys are having a good summer. We haven't had a city council meeting since the second Wednesday of July. We always take the second July meeting off. So we can take vacations, and some city staff can have a few weeks, a little bit of quiet. And it's been kind of quiet, right? It's a bit better. But anyway, so here we are back at annexation policy. You guys do what you think you need to do, and we'll see it again here fairly soon.
You're on the back.
Oh, I'm on the back. That's good. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about it? About what you're going to do or council stuff?
No, at this point.
Fire update? No.
I like your new sign.
What's that?
I like your new sign.
My new sign.
You have a nice, like, illuminated sign. In your
Oh, in
business.
my office? Yeah. I bought one of those neon signs. It's pretty
I
cool.
saw it too.
Yeah,
It
they
worked.
took a
Apparently
picture.
people saw it.
Right?
They took a picture of the fire one night from the fire hall, and it was on Facebook.
Oh, yeah?
And you could see this yellow blob of neon sign. I'm like, ooh, that's pretty bright. I hope the
Nice guy.
compliance officer doesn't notice how
Yeah.
bright it is at nighttime.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on the mic.
You're on the
There we
mic.
go. I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, I was on planning commission a long time ago, and I know how it works, and thanks for doing a lot of the hard work. I know it's a lot of homework and reading and trying to figure stuff out, so thanks for doing it. And that's about it. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm out of here. I'm going right back to work.
Good. I like to hear it.
Yeah. You might know what I'm working on.
I hope so.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, next item. When Rick is finished.
I was answering your question, sorry.
Next item is approval of the minutes from April 2nd and April 16th. Anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
now we're on to the workshop.
Great. So we have, just given the structure of the agenda tonight with the hearing at 5:30, that we can't start any earlier than 5:30, unfortunately. We have a good long time to talk about annexation and get you guys caught up a little bit. You're a little behind the council in terms of the number of workshops that they've held on this topic. At first, we thought it was just going to be a council topic because the thought that was going to, this annexation section would be in the municipal code, which the planning commission never participates in. It's not one of your requirements to weigh in on. We've since got the direction from our attorney that it should be actually housed in the title that has the development code section, and that does involve the planning commission. And so we did start an initial workshop, held an initial workshop with the planning commission back in April, I believe, where we did some annexation 101, kind of talking about what it is, what other communities do, just as a kind of a first introduction to annexation. And then we did hold a joint meeting with the council where I think there was a little bit of an opportunity to have a discussion on housing and kind of hear from the council in terms of where they are relative to the housing requirements of the annexation. But I don't believe that you, as a body, have been able to review the draft ordinance at all. So the reason we're kind of talking about this is that the existing ordinance, if you were to go into Title 1 of the municipal code, it's pretty sparse. It just doesn't really address kind of what the city's needs or the city's goals are with annexation in terms of making sure that what we're bringing into the city is meeting the goals of the city. And so there's the expanded ordinance has quite a bit more criteria, requirements than the existing one. And so the reason we're doing this is because we are also expanding our urban growth boundary. And that is still in process. We've recommended a boundary. We've made a submittal to the county. We've also are reviewing it through our own review process. And it's still with the county. We are still working through the planning commission, the county planning commission. There's been a need to pause the process while we process this amendment to the county code that you're going to hear later on today. But if everything goes smoothly, we hope we'll have local adoption by the end of the year, and then the state will have to acknowledge it, and that takes a little bit of time. And then we will go into the area planning process. But once it's adopted and acknowledged by the city, technically, we could start petitioning the city for annexation requests. So we want to make sure our ordinance is in place the way we want it before we get a petition for annexation. And so I have prepared a presentation today to basically kind of start walking through the draft ordinance as it is today, and make sure that everyone understands, I guess, what each provision is trying to accomplish, and then to start to hear some of your comments on what you like, what you don't like, what you would like to see changed. It will be a process, as you know, with code amendments, that sometimes it can be a little bit of play between the council and the commission, in terms of what the council thinks that they want to achieve and what the planning commission thinks. So the comments that I get from the planning commission today, I'll be able to incorporate into the next council workshop on August 19th. So that'll be, whatever comments you guys pass on will be helpful. I also plan to review how the development process works once you have a UGB expansion. That might help provide some context in terms of when we ask for certain requirements and how we ask them. So I'll review that. Like I said, we'll go piece by piece through the ordinance because we have the time. You guys are a captive audience today. And then we'll talk about next steps. So looking at a little bit of jumping into how say somebody wants to petition annexation into the city, how does that work? Well, we have to get our UGB adopted first. Ideally, we would have our area plan master planning process complete as well. That will start on the heels of the UGB adoption. We can't really get going on that yet because it's a little premature. We want to make sure that the UGB is pretty solid before we start on that area planning process.
That area plan, would that include transportation, streets, all of that?
Yeah, to a certain degree. It's not going to start planning out, each local street or neighborhood street, but it might start to kind of give some definition of where.
Entry into 126 if we're going to try and do that, or
Correct.
Some of the main arterials.
Yeah, it might have like key points where we want to provide access into that area, like say from a future roundabout at the intersection of Barclay and Locust. There might be just an arrow that points into there. We know we want a connection there, and we know we want a connection at 126 at some point. There might be some rough alignments of where the transportation corridors might be, but we probably won't get into that level of detail.
Like some pretty strict parameters that we're gonna give to developers.
Yeah, that's the idea. Is like give enough direction to developers to achieve what we want to achieve on a macro scale for our transportation system, but let them fill in all that kind of the details.
Give them some flexibility.
Give them some flexibility. Yeah. It'll also show kind of like a zoning map. It'll have a land use map that will show where a school site might go, where the parks generally would go, where high density residential, well, we don't need as much high density residential, but residential will go, some of our industrial, some of our commercial space. Just so that we're not handing developers like a blank slate and then being disappointed when they come back with something we don't like. Given a little bit of a template for what the community wants to see out there, and then let them run with it a little bit. It'll certainly change when they bring up a plan in. There'll be some modification of that area plan, but as long as it's in the general components with the plan, I think the city will be happy with it.
The general codes that we have for lot size and everything else, does that carry over into the expanded area, or it depends on what we decide in the area plan?
Yeah, it could. I mean, if we want to just say like all of our existing zone districts will apply out there, then they will, once they're annexed in and they're zoned to a city zone district, they'll adhere to that particular part of the code. We might need to create some new zone districts that capture a different kind of development, that may not be our existing standards might not allow now, but might be something we want to allow. Like if somebody does something creative, and we could create a new zone district, or we could have the applicant say, hey, we'll propose all the standards for the city to adopt to meet to allow their development to happen. We have control over what that is, but if we like it, we could just say, hey, you bring something to us, and if we like it as a city, we'll incorporate that into our code. So it could be one master plan could have its own set of zone district standards, and it'd be just specific to that
We
master
just want to
plan.
be able to have control of that, because there's no way we can establish zones right now. We just don't know what we have. So we want to be able to say no and yes. So we want to, but just definitively say, no, we don't like that, we're not doing that. And you can't come back with 25 attorneys in 10 years and keep arguing. We're saying no now and we mean it. That's kind of what I want to be able to do.
Yeah, we still,
Like as a whole, like I'm obviously, you know, in a, yeah.
yeah, we still as a city have control all the cards. We have all the cards, I guess you want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, the planning commission will review it, and the council can either say yea or nay to it, so.
Lots of checks and balances.
Yeah.
Each application is a thumbs up or thumbs down, right?
Yeah. I mean, if it meets the criteria that we set out, we should say
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Right, and the criteria are gonna be some of the annexation agreements, right? The
like, be some of that, and there'll be-
percentage of housing, you know,
Yeah.
portability or workforce housing or whatever else.
Potential for some pretty, you know, maybe potential for some pretty wild stuff. You know, like massive amounts of tiny homes all grouped together, or some. And whether we want that or not, I don't know. But I mean, you might see some of this stuff.
Yeah, and the area plan, I think, will kind of help us define what the vision is out there as a community. You know, getting lots of voices in on that process, so once somebody brings a plan in for annexation, you know, there's been a lot of discussion about what the expectation is and what. So we don't get surprised by these, you know, plans that are out in left field.
Yeah.
That's the idea, at least. So once we get the area plan adopted, then we would, you know, entertain annexations, and part of that is an annexation agreement that spells out all the requirements. But the ordinance that we're working on is designed to make sure that not every development is a negotiation, that there's some standards to work off of. But whatever terms of that annexation that we all agree to are going to be specified in this agreement. And then they would proceed into a master plan stage. So that would be a requirement in the ordinance that when you want to annex, you have to bring what your plan is for. You can't just say, I want to be annexed, trust me, I'll bring you a plan later.
Yeah.
We want to know what we're going to get, what they're proposing at the time of annexation. So it would be a master plan. It may look different than our existing master plan. It may be something that we might have to modify. So such that it gives us some specification on what they're going to propose, but maybe doesn't require all the level of detail that our existing master plan does. Enough to let us know that what they're bringing in is going to meet their, you know, it's going to be in accordance with the area plan. And so the Planning Commission would review the master plan, and potentially, if they know enough detail about their plan at that point, they might even have subdivision plans at that time. And if that's so, then we can review those at that time. So there would be some level of review by the Planning Commission of that annexation / master plan / initial zoning. They'll have to propose a rezone to a city zone. So the Planning Commission will have some role in that. The council itself will be the only body that really weighs in on the annexation itself, meeting the annexation requirements.
So Scott, let's say come up with some annexation requirements, and they require a percentage of housing type affordability or whatever, and then it turns out 5 or 10 years go by and nobody's doing anything because it's too stringent. Is there an opportunity to go back then and modify those?
Yeah, just like any other code provision, we can reevaluate it over time, you know, or modify it if it's not working. We're constantly making amendments to the code to respond to changes in the community or changing goals or desires, things that don't work. We will come back and say, hey, we need to try this again. That's kind of, any questions on the development kind of review or the development process that we anticipate that this is how it will work when annexation is proposed? So just wanted to briefly talk about where it is in the code. Right now, the annexation is in Title I under the general provisions of the municipal code. Because it's considered to be a land use decision, it really needs to be in the development code. and that's Title 16 of the municipal code. And within Title 16, we are proposing that it be located in Chapter 4, which is applications and review procedures. It would be basically a new Chapter 4.10. That's where we're, at least initially, targeting this to land.
Does this match what other small cities have in place?
There's still cities that have them in the municipal code, but I think the trend these days is to have them in the development code. I think the city of Ben's is in their development code now. It makes some sense because we're it's procedures, applications and review procedures. Seems to make sense that it goes there. But we're open to suggestions if you have other ideas.
I mean, your lawyer's telling you to do it, so usually I trust a lawyer, but.
Well, he didn't say put it right there.
Yeah.
He said put it in the development code somewhere, and staff is basically recommending where we think it goes best. So, just jumping right into it, the first section of the draft annexation ordinance is the purpose, and just the purpose of this chapter is to establish procedures and criteria for annexation under the provisions of the Oregon Revised Statutes. It's intended to achieve the orderly and efficient annexation of land into the city that will result in providing a complete range of public services and public facilities for the annexed territory, and to implement the Sisters Comprehensive Plan. So most of our chapters of our code have a purpose section to start out with, so that's kind of standard stuff for any ordinance. And then we go into an applicability section. Not every property is eligible to annex. What we have up on the screen there is the proposed boundary for the expansion, and you can see there's multiple properties within that area. The ones on the east side, as of now, and the ones in the center, unless they were to partner with another property next to it, many of these properties aren't eligible today to annex because one of the requirements is that they be contiguous to the existing boundary. And they can be contiguous to the existing city limits or separated from the existing city limits by a public right-of-way, a stream, or another body of water. So, say like Locust, is it's in the city, but it's existing city limits. I guess that doesn't really apply. But if there was a public right-of-way that separated annexed properties from the city, that would be enough to say it's contiguous.
You have to annex from left to right, basically. Well, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it has, like, there's properties along 126 or down.
Are we gonna allow like a crazy flag lot situation?
Flag lot?
Like, I mean, you could, they get pretty creative, creating a huge flag to get out to some of those other properties, like a
flagpole,
like a 10-foot wide easement that goes all the way out to the end.
Whatever state law allows somebody to do, they would be allowed to do.
Remember, there's checks and balances.
Yeah, right? I'm just putting. I'm just putting it out there like that. I mean, I've been around some crafty developers my whole life, man.
Yeah.
Like a 1 foot wide development. I
love it.
Yeah, I know some stuff.
Also called cherry stem. Yeah, well, we can get some more kind of clarification on what the state allows relative to that, but what's the question?
Must be an actual lot. That's what you want to
yeah,
hear.
and maybe we're going to be okay with it. I don't know, but it's just,
I
I know a subdivision has a 1 foot easement all the way around the entire thing, and one guy owns the whole thing, and he controls the whole situation.
Yeah, well, we'll get some more clarification on that in terms of what you can and can't do with that. So in terms of review procedures, if we have types of applications, type 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, getting attacked by a fly here. Annexation shall be reviewed using the type 3, which is more of a quasi-judicial, like site-specific type of annexation, or a type 4 process if it's more broadly, it's more of a kind of more than just one site or a couple sites. We might use the type 4 process. as I mentioned, City Council is the sole review authority because annexations are a jurisdictional transfer. And because we wrote it in here and the attorney recommended it to be added, generally with type 4 processes, we're not limited to that 120-day review timeline like many land use processes are. So an annexation would not be subject to that time frame. We would still work to make sure that it gets reviewed in a timely manner, but if it goes past that, it's not an issue legally. And then, let's see, notwithstanding anything in 45200, which is the master plan section, master plan approval is concurrent with an annexation unless exempted in below. At the option of the applicant, subdivision and/or site plan review approval may be reviewed concurrently with the master plan. So they could do a master plan, just master plan, and get it annexed, and then come in later for subdivision, or if they have a commercial project or an industrial project, site plan review, or if they just really have all their ducks in a row, they can bring all that in at one time. Whether or not subdivision review is a required. Right now, subdivision is not required to be reviewed by, it's a type 2 review, as a site plan review is as well. So chances are you wouldn't be looking at anyway. That would be more of an administrative kind of review. Here are some things that would be exempt from a master plan. Thinking is that we wouldn't want to burden certain projects with a master plan step. We have a request from the school district to have a 15-acre, it's been a while since I've kind of touched in with these acreages, but I think it's 15 acres for an elementary school site, that we wouldn't require them to go through a master plan at that time. Or any city-initiated annexation for a public facility or any public-owned right-of-ways. The thinking is that just the master plan process would not serve much purpose there. And then occasionally, the state has pilot projects. Bend has had a couple of them where they've been authorized by state statute for projects. There's a carve out here that if it's a city-initiated annexation for housing as part of that kind of program, that you wouldn't have to do a master plan review.
So would they go straight to the site plan review instead of a master plan?
Yeah, basically. Final procedural steps and decision issuance for development applications will occur after the annexation ordinance becomes effective. So this next chapter is kind of more legalese, I think. It's kind of, it's subject to state rules, and it's kind of dictated by that, but it lays out the circumstances for who has to agree within an annexed territory or a proposed annexation to be able to go forward, assuming that it's not just owned by one property owner who if they were bringing in an annexation, I think that they pretty much agree to bring it in. But if you had multiple property owners and you had, multiple electors, and in this case, the term electors is anybody who basically is a voting member of the community. So, one scenario is that all owners of the land proposed to be annexed, and not less than 50% of the electors consent in writing to the annexation. That's one way that you can initiate an annexation. Another way is if a majority of the electors in the territory propose to be annexed, and the owners of more than half the land in the territory consent in writing. These are like scenarios where you have multiple properties proposing. So you could have certain property owners and certain electors that are supportive of the annexation, and some that are not. This is how you would basically determine whether there is the majority of the folks, the property owners, the majority of the electors agree to annexation. It might mean that some are not supportive of it, but if they get overruled, they could get overruled by basically the ones that do want to be annexed.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
If there's two properties, this is very specific. If there's two properties and the one closest to our current boundary isn't really developing, but they're kind of signing on so that their friend could annex, right? So it can be contiguous. If there's like more, I mean, this gets a little bit tricky, like if there's 10 people on one property, right, that are all electors, how does that work? Does everyone in those two properties need to say okay to annexation, or if the two property owners say okay, then they're okay?
Isn't that one?
Does that make sense?
Describe that.
Is that number one?
Well, 1 and 2, because if you, on number 1, 50% of the people, but on the other one, it's y'all who has the most land kind of thing, you know?
Right.
Contiguous proper territory.
Yeah.
Half of the land in the territory. Okay.
Yeah, it's basically.
Every property gets one vote.
Well, if there's two owners for the
Exactly.
property, then the two owners of that one property. So it
Yeah.
could be two owners and one owner, and then the two
Yeah.
agree and the one doesn't, then
Yeah.
they could
I don't
still, they could still annex, right?
Yeah,
Sounds like they're
that's designed to kind of be able to determine in those situations where there might not be total agreement, how they might meet.
So if an area gets annexed in, like in the example you were talking about, Julia, and the property in front doesn't want to develop, it could still be annexed, right? And then they can just,
Like if they weren't ready to develop,
Yeah.
typically you need a master plan, but there are some provisions, there's been some discussion by council a bit about maybe in certain situations, like that situation, maybe where it might be in the best interest of the city to allow that property that might not be ready to annex in, like they agreed, we wouldn't annex them against their will, but if they were willing to annex, but they weren't ready, didn't have any development plans, didn't know what they wanted to do, there might be a scenario where the city might say, we'll bring you in anyway because it would help unlock another property that is ready to go.
Yeah.
So there has been some discussion about adding that ability to have the council say yes to.
but you have to have a way to get to that
But
back
it's not that
property.
access from some other,
Right.
other.
So that's how you get your flagpole.
Yeah.
Well, and if they're not ready to develop,
Yeah.
is there any promise that they need to develop within a certain time frame, or is it just because of the public interest for the other development?
That would probably be
They
the
may
situation is that
not
they're,
develop for 20 years, or they could develop in 5.
yeah, I don't think there would be anything that says you would have to develop.
Timeline.
I mean, we haven't gotten to that level of discussion. It'd be more of, it'd have to be a unique situation, like it's a small piece of property, maybe it's 5 acres that would unlock 50 acres or something.
If the back property is landlocked though, because the front doesn't want to
Yeah.
develop, then it makes it difficult because you'd have no access.
Unless there's a river flowing through it.
Yeah.
That's what they said,
Yeah.
you tie it in with the river,
Yeah.
Not that you're gonna paddle to your house, but I mean.
Flood the property and you have. So this is kind of legalese, this is kind of comes from the state statute. It gets a little confusing. The attorney, that's when we usually bring an attorney
Just a
to
little.
explain all this. In my experience, it's like one property owner is selling the property, and one developer buys that property and wants to petition the city to annex. So that oftentimes this doesn't even really come into play in my experience, these sections. But it's there if it does.
See some lot line adjustments, so you'll see people doing lot line adjustments that, like, hey, I got 15 acres, I'm gonna sell off 5 of it, pay for my retirement, and you'll see that stuff will happen, we'll definitely see that.
It could be developed, yeah.
Yeah.
So these are just some other kind of straight from kind of statute statements of consent are filed within a 1-year period. Are deemed to be submitted with the petition required in subsection A of this section unless a separate written agreement waiving 1-year period or prescribing some other period has been entered into between the owner of the land and the city.
What's a use case for C on your list there?
What's the purpose of it?
Use case, what would be, why would the city
Health hazard
council
to be.
do that?
So the only one that comes to mind is if there is a health issue out there, like a failing septic tank or some kind of environmental situation that they might, I think it kind of plays into D maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I read that, like if there's a gas station on 126 and the tank was starting to leak.
Got it.
We might want to bring him in so we can get that cleaned up, so we
Remediate it.
can get to
Okay.
those other people.
That makes sense.
There's not a gas station there, but that was a use case.
There could be an old mill site with a barrel of oil on the ground.
You know where?
But it also could be initiated with the state statute for housing, right?
Yeah, cool.
City initiated.
So when somebody gets around to wanting to actually submit an annexation proposal, we, with a lot of our applications, we have submittal requirements. And so this is a list of the things that we would ask a petitioner to submit to the city so that we could adequately review the application. A signed application form provided by the city, that statement of consent on the city formers completed by property owners and electors, basically verifying that they meet the requirements that they can initiate this, meeting one of those requirements. We need a legal description, including a budding right-of-way and a boundary survey, a map showing the territory to be annexed, including a budding right-of-way and properties within 300 feet of the territory, a narrative which addresses the approval criteria that we're going to talk about here shortly, and any other applicable requirements. Basically a burden of proof like we do with applications, we require with any application now. The requirement is of the petitioner to be able to take all that criteria and say how they meet that. And that's something that the staff reviews and verifies and brings forward.
Territory makes me think of the 1800s, you know, Wild West, you know.
A narrative basically saying how that the proposal implements the area plan and then the parks master plan relative to the development of new parks and trails. If applicable, written documentation from the school district indicating the applicant has met with the district about the proposed annexation and detailing the discussion, including whether the school district requires land for a school from the property owner. We should, with the area plan process, kind of know generally where that is going to go, but there might still be some discussion at the time of annexation. Hopefully that's on a big piece of property, so one property owner doesn't get stuck with the school. You know, nobody wants the parks on their sites because it doesn't generate as much revenue for developers. So we'll have to be strategic about that, and that'll be part of the area plan discussion. But at some point, we will need to get a school site.
Now, how is that going to work for a park? So let's say, would the city go in and buy property from one of the landowners to put a park in, or would a developer come and the city would say, oh, to put this development in, you're going to have to
Might be or either one of those scenarios. It could potentially be both.
Your plan, you have to have 5 acres of park out of that, you know, or a percentage has to be green space, public access or something.
What'd you do with the woodlands? Is that what you did with them?
They just deeded that land to us. They had open space requirements, and they just said, we'll give you this.
Open space requirements, though.
Yeah.
I was just thinking if you're doing an area plan to start with, and you had key places you wanted a park, for example.
Yeah, I mean, you want the parks to make sense, right?
Yeah.
That's the most important part, is that they're located in areas that are
People
accessible.
can access, yeah.
It's
Maybe not right next to the runway, you know what I mean?
Right, we probably don't want the grades going right next to the runway or right close to the flood zone.
Right.
You know, into like Texas or something, you know.
Yeah. I've seen it where the city has bought property from a developer, or I've seen it where the property owner develops the land as park land, and then they get a credit on their SDCs. Like there's some.
There we go.
Those kinds of negotiations can happen at the time of annexation.
Okay.
Yeah, now that the SDCs have gone up 300%.
Might be
Overnight, not phased in.
Yeah, there definitely is something of value to a developer.
That's a city council thing.
Yeah. So number 8, if the city has not yet amended its water, wastewater, and transportation plan for the affected expansion area, the applicant must initiate those amendments to those relevant plans or provide other evidence that the necessary infrastructure planning under statewide planning goals 11 and 12 will take place prior to or concurrently with the annexation. In a perfect world, we would take the time to, after the UGB is adopted and the area plan, and update all those master plans. Typically, it's the city that initiates that, but if we have somebody that's chomping at the bit to come in and they don't want to wait that 6 to 12 months that it could take to do that, this provision would allow them to basically propose an amendment to those plans, still subject to city review, to make sure that that what they're proposing we agree with, but that would speed up the process for a development if they initiated that themselves. That would help identify that that we have the proper capacity and improvements to do all that, and how much the SDCs. You talk about the SDCs have gone up. They will likely go up yet again to help pay for future improvements that are necessary out in the expanded area. So, Art, if you have any more projects you want to get them done soon.
Well, I can understand a percentage of increase, but not, an order of magnitude where you're doubling or tripling.
But shouldn't the SDCs on a lot of those developments pay for their own way, kind of?
That's the idea. Is that,
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It goes spread when you do the SDCs. It's citywide. So
yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, people elsewhere are paying for it too.
Yeah.
So that provision is in there in case somebody, like I said, is really just waiting for us to get this complete, and they have a big plans and they want to go forward. That'll make their annexation process a little longer because they'll have to initiate all that. But we would let them know ahead of time, and maybe they'll be able to work on that stuff ahead of the annexation request. Obviously, infrastructure capacity is probably the most important thing about the expansion in the UGB, is to making sure that we have the proper infrastructure to support all the growth out there.
Is there any water rights left on the proposed UGB? Any of those properties have any water rights left?
I don't know for sure. I believe there are certain properties do have water rights. To what extent, I'm not sure. But I've heard that there are water rights out there.
There used to be a lot, but I know
Because it's off of White's there?
yeah, the irrigation district right through this parking lot and all that.
And then you get into if it's a junior water right or senior.
Yeah, all kinds.
They have to deal with that, though.
I think that most developers trade their way out of them. Give them back to, I think that the Saddlestone project, I think they gave all their water rights to the city in part of the negotiations.
Yeah, that's typical for an annexation. Is if you want to annex in, you have to deed the water rights over to the city so that they can use that to help serve the property.
Nice.
That's what number 9 is kind of getting at, some information about any irrigation district facilities. Okay, so that ends that one section of the ordinance, and then we'll move into what is the criteria that we would use to review these, to see if we would want to approve them. So it starts out, City Council may approve or approve the conditions that propose annexation if all the following criteria are met. A1, that the land is proposed is eligible for annexation. That gets back to that contiguity test. That the land proposed to be annexed is at least 20 acres in size, unless the City Council approves a smaller parcel to be annexed if it determines it's in the best interest of the city. The 20-acre minimum came from discussions with our city engineer and our public works department. That would be their preferred minimum size for infrastructure design, for road design, to make sure that things work well, especially with roads. so that if it's any smaller, then it's hard to kind of hamstrings the future properties around it. That you really need that size to be able to lay out infrastructure in an efficient manner.
Also, to serve it with water and sewer, I would think you'd need, there'd be a size limitation.
How many lots are under 20?
There you go. Currently,
How many lots are under 20?
Depends what it's zoned. If it's zoned 3,500 feet
Well, I'm
per
just
lot,
wondering in
then
terms of the sequence of coming from
I
our
just
city
need
boundary
numbers
outward.
order.
I don't know what the lot sizes are, but I feel like there's a lot of 10-acre lots.
Big lot size.
Correct.
I'll have to get that information to you. Yeah, not all of them are over 20 acres. There could be scenarios where a couple 10-acre parcels are purchased at the same time and
bundling.
assembled together. But I think this is something that it's kind of like, let's throw out what the ideal scenario is for the city, but also carve out an exception if there's a good reason to waive that. Council can decide.
You're a developer, does 20 acres bug you at all, or is that a decent,
Seems pretty high to me.
seems high, but I don't have any frame of reference.
Yeah, I mean, for the kind of stuff, I don't do big, house
Sure.
developments, so for industrial, that's big, but, or
Okay.
commercial. Depends what size, if you're gonna put a Costco in, it's tiny.
Yeah.
No Costco.
So, but you're talking about developers like Brooks and stuff, they're gonna go in and talk to like 10 or 15 landowners at
They're gonna
once
bundle.
and bundle
Yeah.
and get, and 20.
As much as they can afford.
Sure.
Yeah, 20 will be a tiny portion of that.
And
They might do 50 or 100 acres there.
from a community planning standpoint, does that worry you at all, that it being big for some of us?
I think it's more ideal if you have bigger parcels that come in, because I think that
Makes
allows.
Makes your easier.
Definitely makes you guys' job a lot easier.
And also, if they
No,
go,
get from a
I
public.
wasn't gonna say that, but it's just from a master planning perspective, the larger parcels you have, the better it's planned, I think.
and then if it's contiguous and it's in the front, that makes it, everybody in back, available.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
I think Brooks initially had assembled about 80 to 90 acres of property, at least initially. So,
Over there.
yeah, you might see that happen more where, we're not gonna see those 5 and 10 acre kind of annexations. It's gonna be larger ones.
But you built in out for yourself.
Yeah.
I like it.
One other criteria is that the annexation proposal is consistent with the applicable Sisters Comprehensive Plan policies and plan designations, which are the land use map that shows, the land use map designations, which will in turn turn into zoning designations. So is it consistent with that? And the approved area plan. The area plan will be an important document and something we will use to evaluate plans against the area plan. The area plan will be is a component of the it's a component of the comprehensive plan. So if you're they're kind of interchangeable.
And the city develops that area plan, yes?
The city will spearhead that. Yeah, it'll be a public process, and will help kind of bring the vision to that area and more into focus. Somebody could, if they have a better plan, then it results in that it's not in conformance with the area plan, but everybody agrees that it's a better plan, they can propose that the area plan be modified at the same time to accommodate it. So that's an option. Obviously, you want to make sure that there's enough capacity, both sanitary sewer, water, stormwater, transportation, schools, parks, that the applicant demonstrate how the annexed territory is capable of being served by all those facilities, consistent with our adopted public facility plans, transportation plans, and other applicable district plans.
Scott, how is stormwater handled in a housing development? Where I know that in commercial or industrial, everything has to be kept on site. Does the city provide anything for stormwater in housing development?
No, that might. I think that's just a general term. It's not. We don't have like separate lines for stormwater collection. It's a lot of, Daryl's saying.
We don't do anything about it on the residential side.
So it's just, if somebody developed, they'd need to put in a big.
You keep it on site and.
Yeah, some of the new streets we collect the water that come off, the runoff from the street itself, but we don't tie any gutter drains or anything like that into any public works storm drains.
It's have to find a plan to keep it all your drainage that you produce on your site, so that it doesn't drain off and become a problem for a neighboring property. So it's like
we do these little tiny, like bioswales, exactly, it's a mud puddle.
Dry wells.
Yeah.
Like out there, the big detention pond out there with the roundabout. Right. On a smaller scale. Dry wells, some things of that nature.
But not on residential. It's all, it all stays on their site.
Not each individual house though, right?
Yes.
Oh, each individual
Yeah.
house, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go over there to across from the Oak Ranch, each house has a little bioswale.
Little swale in front of it.
Okay.
Part of the landscape.
It holds there's a mathematical way to figure out that.
For 100-year flood or
whatever 100-year flood is this many gallons, and has to retain it for like 10 minutes or something like that. It didn't work on that big last huge rainstorm.
Yeah.
There was a lot of failure.
I have one in my backyard.
Yeah.
It flooded a
It
lot.
exposed a lot of people to a lot of stuff.
Sometimes there might be a regional kind of detention for a subdivision, so they don't have to have them on each lot.
Yeah, you could definitely engineer that in, and it would be we would approve something like that.
I mean, if you had a bunch of houses lined up on the street, and you had space in back, you could run everything at the back and have a big bioswale in the back that would tie.
A community drainage plan.
Yeah.
You could certainly create that if you wanted to. If you had problems with spacing or whatever.
Because I was just thinking, if you have houses that are zoned with, condensed, if we get into 3,500 square foot lots, trying to put a bioswale on a 3,500 square foot lot.
Yeah, you can't do it. And there's just no room. It gets overlooked very often in this region.
All right, since we got a lot of stuff to cover, I'm gonna kind of keep us moving.
All right, sorry.
No, these are good questions and good responses. We haven't got to housing yet. So my goal is to get there by 5 maybe, so we at least have a half an hour to talk about that. Proposal demonstrates how impacts created by the annexation, both on-site and off-site, will be adequately mitigated. Specific mitigation requirements shall be specified in the agreement or other funding mechanism approved by the City Council prior to annexation. So it's making sure that they're adequately mitigating their water, sewer, and transportation impacts. We talked about water rights. This provision would basically require the transfer of water rights from the property to the city. The timing is in this particular provision is negotiable. So this gives some timing in terms of when the water rights are proposed to be transferred. Compliance with the transportation planning rule, basically, a lot of these projects are going to add a lot more density to streets and likely change their classification and likely require significant street improvements and transportation mitigation to mitigate their impacts for transportation. This is just a provision that makes sure that analysis occurs and proper mitigation is applied.
You're definitely going to need a roundabout at the end of Barkley there.
Well, it's in the plan.
It's already in there.
Plan, yeah.
It's already in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
but I mean, as the developments start.
At some point,
Quarter about.
That's what it is now.
25%.
Did you skip over water rights?
No,
He just said that.
I address it, but I jumped over it pretty quick.
There we go. I was gonna say it's there.
It says the timing of the transfer of water rights shall occur prior to the recordation of the final plan
Yeah, that was it. You're good.
or prior to a certificate of final occupancy.
You get the water first, basically.
basically, yeah, it can remain out there, but until, once they either trip some measure or some requirement, they have to provide it.
We can go to the fun stuff.
Okay, so let's get to the housing. As you guys have heard, council has put a priority on housing, affordable housing out in the expanded urban growth boundary. And we took a look at different models for other communities that are doing this, and there's not a whole lot of them out there that are doing that. So there's not a lot of great examples. The closest one that we found was Ashland. Has been requiring affordable housing for quite a long time, and so we initially started with this modeling after their program, and it still has some remnants of that, but it's been modified. City of Bend does things in different ways through their area plan. They get affordable housing out in their urban growth boundary areas. It's not a consistent. They don't have anything in their annexation ordinance that really is like what we're doing. They have multiple area plans because they're so big, and each one of those area plans has different requirements for housing. And some of those projects are state-initiated projects that had requirements on them. They're like a couple of their projects took advantage of the one-time UGB thing that we tried to do here that we found out we didn't qualify for. They have a couple of those. So those mandate like a 30% affordable housing requirement. So long story short, there wasn't really a great perfect apples to apples example out there for us to follow for affordable housing requirements. So we have kind of been creating it on our own as we go. But the council has long kind of held out this percentage that they would like to shoot for in terms of the overall number of percentage of overall number of units as affordable. It says workforce housing here too. 25% of the total number of units. And so we also did some research into, okay, 25% is great, but what kind of units? There's different. Not all affordable housing units are created equal. They hit different segments of the area median income. Which ones do we require? Our housing plan and our housing needs analysis that we did basically got into the level of detail saying, well, we need 20% of the units need to be for people making 30% of the AMI or less. We need about 20% in the 31 to 50% category, 24% in the 50 to 80% AMI category, and then 81 to 150% comprises the rest of them.
This is all how you slice up to 25%, right?
That's the idea.
But those
There's no
percentages
science
came
behind
from.
that, sorry.
No, go for it.
I was just, there's no science behind this at all, this is just what?
No, there is some science.
Okay.
That was analysis.
Those percentages came from the housing plan?
Yeah, basically they came from looking at our housing plan, looking at our housing needs analysis, and the state did, there's now a Oregon housing needs analysis that where the state is doing the needs analysis for each community, and we've I took the numbers that we produced and have kind of checked them against some other sources, and they're all pretty consistent in terms of these are the categories of the need. It all sounds great, right? Come to find out, there's probably not a developer around that could pull this off.
Yeah, I was going to say after looking at that.
It's
Yeah.
very cumbersome.
It's a big percentage of their.
Well, the percentage is one issue, and the mix of units is also.
What's the bigger issue there? Is it the percentage or the mix?
Depends who you talk to.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was some of the feedback
We
you
put
got?
together a affordable housing working group,
Yeah.
and it consists of Northwest Housing Alternatives. They're building here in town. It consists of Habitat for Humanity, Housing Works. They do a lot of work in the community, and their director used to be the director of Ben's Affordable Housing Department, so really knowledgeable. And then we brought in Kirk Schuler from Brooks Resources, and then Kevin Eckert from for a local perspective.
The commercial guys balk at this, just like.
There was some bulk at the 25% that, based on their experience, that would be harder, if not impossible, to achieve. that was coming from Build LLC locally. Didn't get that from the bigger developer necessarily. Maybe they're working on a larger scale.
Right.
Well,
But it's the whole 25% isn't, I mean, when you get to the 81 to 150 down at the bottom, and that's 36% of the 25%, that's a lot easier for them to swallow than the first.
So really, you're splitting it 3 ways hard, and then that last one is doable.
Yeah.
For most developers. I get you.
Generally, the higher, the higher the category, the more they can sell the units for, rent them for,
Right.
kind of is easier for them to
And
swallow.
they can build them without, losing
Yeah.
the money. Yeah.
yeah, what are the needs of,
Does this apply
what
to
are our
a
real
minimum,
needs?
like
Maybe
apartment
we need
building
more
units? Like
workforce?
you have to build at least 5 units for this to apply?
There is I believe we have it's smaller than a certain size that they could come up with a different plan.
Or they still have to have some affordability?
The way it is right now is that maybe there's a payment of a fee in lieu or something like that, equivalent fee in lieu. So how this gets done, we need these, our studies show we need a variety of units. How do you get to a point where you get that mix at the end of the day? And that's one of the challenges we're finding here is that nobody can really do all these things in one project because you're talking about a lot of different funding sources, and lots of different, 30% or less requires a lot more services for the residents that live there, and that's a whole different can of worms.
And the funding could change consistently. I mean, it's going to consistently change from the state too.
Yeah.
That's when we know it's going to change. We don't know. We just know it's always going to be changing.
Yeah, and that's another.
It all rolls downhill from feds.
Yeah.
That's going to change.
So we can't. I mean, we just can't really put a number on any of this. And
Well, the number's still in flux. I'm going to meet with that working group again. They've been great. They've been providing a lot of feedback on this, and council really wanted us to get that feedback from these groups that do this kind of development, so to make sure that our ordinance is as accurate and useful as possible. At the end of the day, we might not get to that point. So as you'll see as we go through there, we've added this section where somebody could say, I want to propose an alternative plan here, and it may not have 25%, but it might have some other things that the community might find of value, more workforce housing units, in addition to maybe we're going to give a lot to Habitat or to Northwest Housing Alternatives, deed the land to them, and they're going to go run with it, and provide some of those units that we need. We're finding out that it's almost impossible to write the perfect ordinance that will apply in all situations.
Yeah, it's almost like you've got the pie in the sky here, and then you've got the other method, which most people will probably take advantage of because they can't reach this, because it's a little stringent, but it's what they should be adhering to. Is that
Yeah,
what you're...
should be accurate. I think this, but we could have just said, hey, throw us a plan out.
Sure.
And without benchmarks, we
No, I love the benchmarks. And they're aggressive, and they're like sisters being in the lead, which I love. But that's great. We're going to be at the forefront.
And if you happen to get a charitable landowner who says, hey, you take 20 of my acres and, go with the first couple categories here, that you do. This is for the overall area, right? This isn't just for each development.
So what's going to be the flux? Is it going to be the percentage of housing units required? Is that the stuff that's in flux with the sort of the housing group right now? Or is it the 25%?
Well,
Both of them?
yeah,
All of it's in flux right now?
The 25%, if you made it all 30% AMI and you did a smaller amount than 20%,
Yeah.
we'd probably buy that because you're providing, more affordable housing, and, you know what I mean? So that was all the negotiation things that.
well, that's funny because that's the way that the Ashland ordinance works. Is if you hit the lower end of the AMI, you don't have to produce as many units.
Credit?
It's a credit.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We proposed that, and
Proposing, you build.
council didn't really like, some members of council didn't really like that because they thought it incentivized maybe one more than the other. Or we want to get a mix.
Well, you got to try to find that balance, and it's hard.
and 30% of AMI is really poor.
Oh, that's really low.
I mean, it's hard to qualify for that, I think.
Yeah. And it's hard to get funding for it too.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, federal funding changes the way that state funding distributes funds. So
Yeah.
if their priority is prioritizing 30%,
Yeah.
then developers, when they're submitting their funding applications, right, they're changing their numbers
Yeah.
so that they can maximize their funding.
So like right now, it's almost impossible for the state to get any money from the feds for any of this stuff.
But we
But we
can
have
say,
to start somewhere, and I
Yeah.
think this is good that we're getting something in writing, and we're, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you're gonna land amongst the stars. I mean, so we're shooting this kind of high,
Yeah.
but, in the very end of things, it's gonna be pretty damn good.
I feel like it's cumbersome. I mean, like.
It's
these
stacking, the
requirements are
stacking is-
Stacking
yeah.
on top of funding requirements.
Exactly.
And now you have like 10 different funding streams that all have their own requirements that now you're trying to fit within.
That's
these
a lot of
parameters.
loopholes.
I feel like that is a lot of jumping through hoops, and I think we want to make it easier for people to create affordable housing that is dispersed. And so the scenario I'm thinking about in my head is if there's 4 property owners who come in together and annexing, right? In that annex land, that one application, they have to give 25% if it's residential, right? If the area plan is residential.
25% of the units.
Of the units. Okay.
Not of the land, actual land.
No, because
Of
you
the
can
units, but
concentrate.
within that annexed
Yeah,
area,
exactly.
right?
So, because you can get a lot of units in an apartment building,
Yeah.
rental units in a much smaller
Yeah.
space. So you could get maybe 25% of the units by taking up.
Yeah. Which is, that's what they're
10%
gonna
of the
do, 'cause
land.
we haven't even talked about density yet. I mean,
Right.
I just think like the granularity of the 20%
Yeah, that's what they
of
have to do to get
30%
the right-
AMI
That works pretty well.
yeah.
feels really
It's pretty common. Agree.
hard to get to. I feel like, I guess, like reading this earlier today again, it felt like no developer could meet this standard if they have one piece of property
Yeah,
in a residential area. They'd have to have an alternative path.
but again,
maybe it's something we monitor over time, like.
have a plan so that you can reach towards it. You don't always have to hit it exactly on. It's for reference, it's for guidance, it's for,
Right, but if 100% of our applications are giving us alternative paths, then we're saying that this is too
Yeah.
high, like that incremental change is too high.
But if we realize that as time, this is a 20-year plan, this annexation, right, or this UGB, as we're walking down this path and we realize it's getting too hard, this is all changeable.
Well, that's what I was asking
So
earlier
if
at the
nobody's
beginning.
meeting and everybody's complaining about nobody's building because they can't do it, then we can always adjust things so they can, or clean things up so they can.
Is it too
But we have
strict
to
right off the
start
bat?
somewhere.
Yeah, that's my concern, is that it may be.
and you're in the building industry. I mean, you know this, and you look at this and you say, that's gonna discourage building.
But it's easier to start strict and reduce than it is start low and
Okay,
increase.
that's
When
good.
you're thinking about,
I like
public
that.
policy, if you go up high and then you start knocking off, people think you're doing them a favor.
Yeah.
But if you start down here and you start making it more restrictive, then people start yelling and screaming. So it's good to start high and then allow it to be cut down a little bit.
I like that.
Should have done that with SDCs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, set it low to 300 and I would have been happy.
I would have been happy, right?
If you take 2,500 and on the next day it's like over 6,000, that's a little bit
Yeah,
of
no, I get
a
it.
drastic.
Are you looking for us to come up with, I mean, we're not the experts, but are you looking for us, you've heard the feedback is, but as a body, do you want us to recommend anything would you suggest that we, as a body, recommend something to council?
Well, I think at this point was just kind of understanding what's being proposed and hearing some of the discussion that's occurred so far.
It's the same discussion you heard, I'm sure, before, right?
I mean, I don't expect you to have any, solutions tonight. I just want to hear, like, are we generally heading in the right direction? Are we not heading in the right direction? I'm hoping that, with this next work group meeting that we can come up with some real solutions. Like, if this doesn't work for you, what does?
So is there some other, like, out-of-state things that we can go look to, some of these other cities and out-of-state or mountain towns?
Colorado,
I mean, it's all over. I mean, this is a problem everywhere. I mean, I've read about it everywhere.
I could take some field trips if you want.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll drive.
the idea was to look around.
Yeah.
It's better if it's Oregon.
Okay, you guys
Yeah,
gotta clean up the
I-
language
yeah.
now, we got.
There just aren't a whole lot of these out here.
What about density bonuses? That was on my list.
That's another thing that's been brought up from the development community is like, okay, you guys are you guys are asking for stuff for us to give you stuff. What about giving us some flexibility on some density bonuses and stuff? And so that stuff is on the table. I mean, the tricky part is that we can't exceed the overall number of units that designated our need for, but maybe there's ways to get creative. If we can do still like small lot sizes, the cottage density bonus that we have in our code now was very useful for habitat.
The cottage thing is just, I think it's working for us. I mean, I like what it's doing, putting that higher concentrate, using less land. We either concentrate or we sprawl. We got a choice,
Go up.
Well,
Go up, yeah, I mean.
it's really the only feasible concept
Right.
for habitat to, I mean, they basically come to the conclusion that they won't be able to provide a single family. It's the closest thing to not sharing the walls and still being affordable that they can still produce. And the lots keep getting smaller and smaller, but that was something that they requested that it continue to be available in the expansion area because they want to continue to use that model.
I like it.
What about
And you
density
achieve these
in
numbers
like
better.
for-profit properties?
They could do that. They could take advantage of it too, as long as they're providing true affordable housing.
Well, yeah, like a bit of, I mean, the for-profit housing. What about, where are we gonna be at? Where's that density at? Is that gonna just stick with our same plans we have now?
It'll be, it'll be in alignment with what the density that we need out there.
Yeah.
The needs analysis said that we have enough high density zoning in the existing community to address that need, and that the need was going to be more for low density housing out there, which we've all thought is very strange, and I think that's why they've changed the methodology on the housing needs analysis, because most people say, do we really need more low density housing in Sisters? Probably some would say yes, maybe some would say no. That doesn't help our affordable housing.
I mean, I could see a Buck Run style community all along the river there, on both rivers, all the way through there. Half-acre lots or something like that, or whatever, some bigger stuff. I can see that as a possibility, if somebody would want that.
Right.
Does it work? Not really.
Maybe there's a way to, to allow property to average the density over site, so they may have some larger lots like that, but allow them to do some multifamily as well. And as long as it balances out, as long as the density averages out over on the site, you can have a little bit of more dense and less dense.
Too.
I mean, even a 10,000 square foot lot now is low density.
My other thought was,
Just have one conversation.
What?
That's gonna go on the record.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. He was
patient, so I
talking.
couldn't hear you.
Just trying to have one conversation that's not here.
Oh, my other thought was that it felt like some of those requirements, both with the percentages and with the minimum square foot areas of like one bedroom, is kind of repetitive of funding code, of state code for affordability. Like OHCS has minimum requirements. So for apartment sizes,
Oh.
if you're getting their funding.
Right.
And so it's a little bit of a replicated information, but
I
at
guess
some
maybe
point
there's
we
a
don't want it
scenario-
to, we
there
don't
might
want
be a
it to.
scenario where there might not be that entity involved, and
Right.
that
Yeah.
would provide that backstop or that minimum standard.
But the minimum standard is for both affordable and market rate, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, market rate, when you say market rate, like non-affordable,
Non-affordable, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they would call it, keep calling it market rate.
Market rate would just be,
They can do whatever they want.
so then,
We're building
okay,
bigger houses on the river,
These are just standards relative to affordable housing and potentially how we define workforce housing.
so I guess that's kind of my point, is that there's already the minimum square footages for unit sizes in most funding, requirements, or like, what's the right word for that? And so we're kind of duplicating the information because they already have that requirement somewhere.
Yeah, I guess the only scenario that I can think of is like if a for-profit developer said, I'm going to build those units myself without any extra funding. I'm just going to do them.
They're just gonna build affordable units. Okay, yep.
And,
That's fine, yeah.
So, yeah, we need to restrict,
It never happens, is that what you're saying?
if you don't, send them our way.
It's a rare thing.
But
If
yeah,
someone
it
who
could
wants to
happen.
build affordable housing without the specific affordable housing
I think
funding.
Hayden did a couple. Hayden Homes did a few in one of their phases because they wanted to have control of who got it.
Oh, interesting.
They did over there, past the churches right there.
Yeah, they didn't like the state's awarding program, so they did it
Oh,
themselves.
that's where that came from? Their own program came from
Yeah.
that? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, good example. Yeah. Some of these other sections of the code are kind of coming from council, kind of initial direction that they gave staff in terms of, requirements that they, or concepts that they felt important. One of those being that they didn't want to see all the affordable housing units be kind of put into one part of a development or one part of the site.
Great idea.
How that gets written into a code, it gets kind of challenging. We've thrown some concepts out here that may or may not work for actual developers. Got some comments back from some of this developer working group that these might be challenging to meet.
Where the term non-clustered in one area, will that preclude or keep out cottage developments? Because we want those cottage developments too, and they're going to be a cluster, so I mean.
Right, and apartments are by nature.
Definitely a cluster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not going to keep those from happening.
No.
You don't want apartments all clustered together and then it becomes,
You mean like over here on the west side of town?
well, yeah, I mean, well, especially if they're 30% of,
I think this works on the ownership program, on when the low income side where like the workforce, the 80 to 150 and the ones they're actually going to get to ownership.
right?
The rental ones, I don't think that.
You don't want to turn it into the projects like
Yeah, exactly. I think
Compton or
I think
Chicago or
peppering
somewhere
it
like
in
that.
is really good for the community.
Yeah,
You what? I'm sorry, Darryl, what'd you say?
peppering it in.
The ownership, the houses that are going to, the low income houses that are going to end up in ownership, those I think we can pepper those throughout the community. Obviously, the cluster doesn't work, the rental doesn't work.
Right.
I mean, the only way you're going to be able to afford the 30% and less ones is they're going to be stacked.
Right, they have to be.
Yeah.
So again, we may have to just write some standards in there that may, that get to the concept of what we want to achieve, but somebody may say, hey, I need to propose them. I get what you're getting at here, city, but we're gonna address it a different way. Here's our alternative plan. Somebody has suggested maybe there's a minimum dimension between units instead of like, here it says you gotta separate affordable units by 5 market rate units. Some have said maybe the affordable units just can't be right next to each other, or there's some minimum distance between them.
Isn't that what that's saying? 5
It
market
does.
rate? I mean, that
Specifically for
It depends, your lot could be weird.
Seems kind of arbitrary.
It wouldn't have to be market rate, it could be
Well, it says
workforce
market.
housing.
Yeah, right.
The 30% separated by workforce housing, that would
Yeah.
be okay too. It doesn't have to be market rate units.
but you're thinking more of the feet, like as in
Like I said, back
Short-term
Saying like
yeah,
not
rentals.
Yeah.
how we did the short-term
like a
rentals.
250 or 500,
Yeah.
whatever it is, yeah.
Is that what you were saying? More like our short-term rental stuff?
I mean, that's
Where
an
there's
option.
a feet, number of feet, not units in between, but number
either
of feet.
feet or just saying if you have two 30% AMI units, they can't be right next to each other. They have to be
Yeah.
separated.
Yeah.
But like let separated and dispersed be up to
Yeah.
the design team.
Yeah. But that's why I kind of like the 5, because that does kind of, I know that, the 5 it's variable, but still it gives us some type of spacing in between.
Yeah, but I don't know. It feels hard.
I feel like somebody's going to trick you on that.
It's like you have 6 units that are like just stacked, right? You can't really put them 5 units apart if you have
Yeah.
2. If you
Yeah,
have
I
3.
agree. I don't think
Three
it does not
level-
work on the 30% AMI
Yeah.
thing at all. You have to cluster them. There's going to be like 9 of them together.
It just like 5 doesn't make sense. The division of 5 units is
Okay, I
already.
see what you're saying there.
Well, in the interest of time, let's just kind of scoot through these other ones. And this is not your last chance to discuss these things. Well, there'll be more workshops, but I just want to make sure we kind of introduce these.
I'm going to need 5 minutes for break in between before we start our public.
Yeah, so we have even less time. So let's skip through these. Phasing is something that's been a little controversial from the working group. The city's interest and the community's interest is that there is some timetable for these affordable units to be built, right? So that they're not at the very end, which typically is the way that it happens if you don't put any requirements on them. Some of the concerns that I've heard with the way we structured it now is especially when you have a nonprofit affordable housing developer that is reliant on state or federal funding that has totally different timetables, that their concern is that they'd be holding up the free market units too much. And they think that we should decouple the two so that that doesn't occur. I get that. So what would be better? What would work for them, I guess, is what I'm hoping to hear from them when I meet with them next time. So that gives them more flexibility, but make sure that these units aren't forgotten and kind of an afterthought and put in 10 years later or something like that.
We dealt with that over and over again
Yeah.
when we were acquiring apartments in the development, and they get left to the end. And,
Yeah, so you gotta let them make some money so they can afford to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
But you gotta
Put it
let
somewhere in the middle, not
Yeah.
at the very end.
somewhere between 50 and 70%.
Yeah.
If you're gonna give 25% of them away, so you gotta go. So 50 to 60% of the 75% that are left.
Yeah, there'll be some more flexibility there. Initially, this exterior building material requirement was that they, have the affordable units are required to have the same exterior building materials as the market rate units. This is kind of,
It's
kind of been
a bunch of crap, yeah.
what's that?
We're not putting up tar paper houses or something, I mean,
Yeah, but
that's kind of what that's saying.
some of the concern is that.
Well, so they look compatible with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
We softened it a little bit to say same or complementary building materials. It could
Right.
be cheaper materials that kind of look like the,
Yeah.
main unit. I think we're going to need to probably stop here soon so everybody has some
Let's
time.
get to 10, because Peter had a question about 10 from,
Okay, deed of land, this is something that would be another alternative. If you don't want to build it, give it some land that would demonstrate support, that it could support the 25% percentage of units with parking and minimum size and all that. And then you could transfer it to a nonprofit developer, you could transfer it to the city. So that land is very valuable. If you got land, that would be something of value that we could turn in and try to get a nonprofit developer, kind of how we got NHA here to develop. So that's an alternative that somebody could use, or a combination of, we'll build some units, we'll give you some land.
I don't think the city needs to get in the business of building.
We wouldn't build it, we would just be
Yeah.
kind of land banking it, like how we were able to find the land for
Yeah.
that one.
I mean, we
Adams?
like a broker almost.
Yeah.
We do not want to get in the business of building
Oh, no,
at all.
oh, no.
Broker's a good way to kind of
That's why I land on my hat.
characterize it.
No, I was just looking at your
Oh.
head.
So just quickly, the alternative plan option is, if the applicant chooses to not comply or determines it cannot comply with the requirements above, they may submit an alternative housing plan for consideration by council that meets the goals in an alternative way. Alternative plan may be approved by city council if they determine that it is, quote, in the public interest, and provides commensurate or additional benefits for the city. And here's some consideration will be given to these kinds of alternatives. So, lot to digest. We don't have a whole lot of time to continue to dig into this. We'll schedule more workshops, because I know this is we're not ready to take it forward to you as a request for adoption. So hopefully we accomplished a lot today and you feel more informed and be able to move to the next step next time.
This is very useful, thank you. As usual, staff
good job.
reports are always top notch. Makes our job so much easier.
All right, do you want to take a?
Oh, yeah, you have to end the.
Oh, yes.
thing.
You have to go to the bathroom.
During the work session.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where. Okay. Now open our Planning Commission public hearing for August 6th, 2026, 5:30 p.m. This is the time set for a public hearing on city file number, county.
That's the county file.
Pardon?
It's a county file number.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It says,
Say county?
it says hearing on city file number, county, and then county file number. Okay. County file number 24-26-000-459-TA.
And that's an error right there, it's 247-226, not 24-26.
247 is our county code for the state.
An application for text amendments to the Deschutes County Code Title 21, Sisters Urban Area Zoning Ordinance, submitted by the City of Sisters. The meeting is now called to order, which I did earlier, but I'll do it again. Conduct of hearing. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. A, staff will make a presentation and commissioners may ask questions to staff. B, entry of additional correspondence received into record. C, opening the public hearing for testimony in the following order. 1, testimony in support of the proposal. 2, testimony in opposition to the proposal. 3, neutral testimony. D, questions of staff, if any, by the Planning Commission. E, closed public testimony portion of hearing, no further testimony. F, discussion and decision by the Planning Commission. Testimony. Testimony will be accepted in person and remotely via Zoom. If you'd like to speak, please provide your testimony after you're called. If you do not wish to provide testimony, please say no testimony after you're called. Any questions should be directed to me as the chair. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record, and please speak clearly and loudly to ensure testimony is heard, as this hearing is being recorded. Callers will be muted after their testimony concludes. At my discretion, I may limit testimony to 3 minutes per person. I would encourage those wishing to speak to keep testimony concise and relevant to the issue before us this evening. It is encouraged to simply agree with the point made by another person instead of remaking the point. For the deliberations, the applicable substantive criteria are listed in the staff report. These are the criteria the Planning Commission must use in making its decision. All testimony and evidence must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or other land use regulations that the person testifying believe apply to the decision. Testimony that is not directed towards applicable or potentially applicable approval criteria, even if a strong point, is ultimately not relevant. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the Planning Commission and parties an opportunity to respond to the issues precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the Planning Commission to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may ask the Planning Commission to provide further opportunity to present additional relevant evidence or testimony that is within the scope of the hearing. Disclosures. At this time, I'll ask if any commissioner has any conflict of interest. If so, please disclose the nature of the conflict and whether the member believes the conflict would preclude the member from objectively participating in these proceedings. To Julia?
I have no conflict of interest and will participate.
Okay, Eli?
No conflict of interest, then I will participate.
Rick?
I have no conflicts of interest and I will participate.
Daryl?
I have no conflict and I will participate.
And myself, I have no conflict and will participate. Okay, does any member of the audience wish to challenge the ability of the commissioner to hear this matter? Since we only have one, I guess not. Staff may now present their report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you noted, this is a proposal is the text amendment to the Deschutes County Code, Title 21. And I'll get into some detail about what exactly that does here in a minute. Basically, this issue was discovered during the review of the Urban Growth Boundary Amendment, Sisters Urban Growth Boundary Amendment application that is under review at the county. And there was a gap in the county code that was discovered with once properties are rezoned or brought into the Sisters Urban Growth area, they're under the Title 21 section of the code, the Deschutes County Code, and the concern was that there would be certain protections for floodplains and wetlands and things of that nature wouldn't transfer over into Title 21. So the solution was to propose amendment to the Deschutes County Code and the Deschutes County Comprehensive Plan for a text amendment to address that oversight. And this process is under the requirements of the joint management agreement between the City of Sisters and the Deschutes County in terms of how that process takes place. These are the different titles in the Deschutes County Code that are applicable in this case. The total package of amendments also involves applications or text amendments that we submitted to the county that the county will be processing concurrently with the city. But by nature of the joint management agreement, certain aspects of the county code are required to be reviewed by the city, this Title 21. Here are the different chapters in Title 18 that are applicable, the resort residential zone. There's combining zones that are basically protections, additional protections on properties. One relates to airport, one relates to landscape management, wildlife, and then floodplain zones. The issue was that these are in Title 18. With our rezone into Title 21, those don't come along with them. And so we're trying to correct this oversight. If you looked at Title 21 in the county code, the applicable sections are the establishment of zones. There's an existing floodplain zone, urban area reserve zone, and airport overlay zone right now. You'll note that there is no landscape management zone or wildlife protection zone, and that's part of the problem that we're trying to correct with this text amendment. So this summarizes basically the total package of text amendments that have submitted to the county. Several of them pertain to the Deschutes County Comprehensive Plan that we needed to add new policy language to Chapter 1 and Chapter 4 to basically allow the city to be able to, or the urban growth area to utilize the Title 18 zoning designations in Title 21. That lays kind of the foundation for the code amendments. The county is processing those amendments and they should go forward to their planning commission on August 27th. There's also amendments to Title 17 and Title 18, and the county is handling that portion of the review. Basically adds a new section to Title 18 that says that we can, the Title 21 zone lands can also utilize Title 18 zone lands. And we also are proposing an amendment to Title 17, which is their subdivisions. It would mirror language that addresses land within the City of Bend UGB land within the Sisters UGB. And that basically pertains to cluster development. The concern is somebody can well, property is in the county waiting annexation to the city, could propose a cluster development, and that would potentially create small lot sizes, like 1 acre lot sizes in the zone. And we want to preclude that because we want to retain as much as the lots in the biggest configuration that we can, so that it'll make it easier for future urbanization. And then Title 21 is the section that we're reviewing, and then we'll go into a little more detail about what that is. Just briefly, the joint management agreement is an agreement between the city and the county. Basically, it addresses how land use planning is administered within the Sisters urban growth area. And basically what it requires is anything that's in the county but in our urban growth boundary, any land use changes or amendments, the county delegates to the city review of those amendments. And so that's why we are processing these amendments to the county code on behalf of the county. The idea is that the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission, the city has an interest, a future interest in these lands. I think that's why that this process is created the way it was, so that the city has some ability to provide input into the lands that will affect the city in the future. But ultimately, the Board of County Commissioners will have to adopt these changes. So the City Planning Commission will hold a hearing, and then after that, after the Planning Commission renders a decision, they'll have 5 days to make a recommendation that we will transmit to the Board of County Commissioners, who have 90 days to schedule a hearing date. Our City Council shall also review and comment on the Planning Commission recommendation. Okay, so let's get to the meat of the amendment that we're asking the Planning Commission to consider tonight. This is a snapshot of what the Title 21 section that we are proposing amendment to tonight looks like now. Some language and then a small table that shows all the existing zoning districts that would be zone districts that are applicable or could be used in the Sisters urban growth area. And so the first part of that language we're not proposing to amend at all. That's all this language here basically just kind of talks about why we have these different zone districts in this area. Basically, they're meant to preserve land for future urban development until such time that these properties are annexed. And so what we are proposing tonight, and I've also put a revised sheet out in front of you. Based on some of the discussion that we've had to date, there was a recognition that the amendments that are in your staff report need to be amended even a little farther. So in red, we're proposing that those things not be part of the amendment. Basically what we had by mistake was we had 3 floodplains. So we went from a situation where we didn't have enough environmental protection to maybe too much. So we are proposing that we only have 1 floodplain section in the proposal. We also had 2 landscape management zones. We only need 1, so we're proposing that one of those be removed. But anything that's underlined in the text is language that we want to add to, we're proposing to add. So we're adding the rural residential 10 zone. That's what the current zone on those properties is now. Initially, we had proposed to rezone it to Urban Area Reserve 10. With this code amendment, we will be able to not have to do that rezone and allow the property owners that are out there to maintain their existing zoning until such time they're annexed. We think that's an advantage, would be a potential advantage to those property owners. We had multiple use agricultural 10 as a potential zone. When we opened this up, the county said, are there any other zones around there that might, in the future, be potentially brought into the urban growth boundary? That we might have some examples of that, so we propose to add that. We're adding the floodplain to this section. The little asterisk basically means that these are referencing zoning designations that exist in Title 18. So there's that, it's meant to be a cross-reference to those Title 18 requirements. And then we're adding these other combining zones that, once they're added, will provide the adequate protections that we need for these parcels. And then we're adding a section 2108.015, retention of Title 18 zoning designations within the Sisters urban growth area. And that basically just allows us or allows properties within the Sisters Urban Growth boundary to retain those zoning designations that are in Title 18 as interim holding zoning, and continue to apply in lieu of the districts otherwise listed in the section until the land is annexed into the City of Sisters. So I think that is all comprises my staff report. It doesn't take any existing zoning, just adds the availability of other zone districts that should address the initial concerns that the county staff raised. Any questions? Is that, yeah.
The landscape management plan, are all those properties that are gonna be inside that landscape management, are they gonna be subject to that whole process?
Well,
To get permits?
they're in the county.
Well, but if it gets annexed,
That'll go away.
that goes away,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Cause that's
Well, just
expensive and
temporary.
onerous.
Yeah, it's all just temporary, right?
Yeah.
This whole thing is just temporary while we're
Yeah.
going from them to us.
That's kind of the way I read that, I was just wondering to clarify that.
And then, once it's brought into the city, it will be subject to our special flood hazard ordinance and other protections that we have. That's all I have, unless there's additional questions.
Okay.
Real quick, in terms of timeline, once the Board of County Commissioners approves this, it just doesn't immediately kick in.
Believe there's a timeline that it takes before that becomes effective.
Okay.
Yeah,
Undisclosed amount of time.
I think it's 90 days.
But as long as that occurs before we get to the UGB gets filed with the state, is that?
Yeah, we may have to request that the board approves it by emergency ordinance, so that it becomes effective immediately.
Okay.
So
Then
that it's
it won't.
approved before the end of the year.
They can do that.
All three commissioners have to agree to it, but yeah, they can do that.
Because that just has to be approved by the end of the year before the UGB gets.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, correspondence. Have we received any correspondence on this matter other than those items included in the agenda materials? No? Okay. This time I will ask each commissioner whether they have any questions for staff. Questions will be stated by each commissioner. Staff will respond after all questions have been asked by commissioners. When your name is called, please ask your questions or indicate that you have no questions.
No questions.
No questions.
I have no questions.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Public testimony. We'll now invite members of the audience to provide testimony. When called, please come forward and state your name and address for the record before proceeding with your testimony. When your name, number is called, please indicate whether or not you'll be providing testimony. For those attending Zoom, we will conduct a roll call to see who wants to provide testimony. Do we have anyone?
We do have one.
Okay.
Edco, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you.
Okay. We will begin with those attending in person who wish to testify. Nope. Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? No. Does any member of the Planning Commission have any further questions of staff? I already went through that.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
Asked and answered.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I will close the public testimony portion of this hearing. The public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. We've now closed the hearing and must deliberate towards a decision. Our options are to recommend A, approval as proposed, B, approval with changes, or C, denial. When your name is called, please provide your thoughts on the proposed amendments and what decisions you're inclined to make. I will continue going through the order until there are no further deliberations or until a motion is made. So you'll have the opportunity to respond and or adjust your thoughts based on the testimony of your fellow commissioners.
I think it's very straightforward in terms of the text amendment, so I would recommend to approve as is.
Yeah.
I recommend to approve as is.
Me too.
Yeah. So I would move that we approve the Deschutes County file number 247-266-000-458-TA as presented.
Okay, a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I thought you said 5-8, and I read 5-9.
Oh, 5-9, excuse me.
It is 5-9.
Correction, 5-9.
Where am I
I
seeing?
didn't have my glasses on. I know, come on. You get what you pay for. Come on.
Okay, well, we have voted, and that's all I have on here.
So passes.
Do you have any other comments for us, Scott?
No, other than, well, just briefly, we don't have any items for the August 20th agenda currently, so I think most likely we'll probably cancel that and probably be planning for another workshop on the annexation sometime in September, one or two of the meetings. And then October 1st, I believe we have a work session scheduled to introduce the code audit, the results of the code audit.
Cool.
We've got the results of that this week. We're doing an initial staff review. And, there's a lot there. Let's put it that way. A lot to work on, a lot to consider. But Matt, anything else you want to add to what we might be asking of them that meeting on the 1st? It's just more of an introduction.
More of an introduction. We're working with consultants 3J, and they prepared a extensive audit of our code from things for us to consider for incorporation discretionary items that we could consider by changing our code, some clarification, some other housekeeping amendments that you're familiar with. So this is kind of the main stuff, but also a lot of legislation has come forward from state legislature in the last few years specific to housing, and that's what a major component of this, that's the genesis of this, is incorporating those housing standards into our code that are either required or permissive. So those will be the things that we'll be looking for your direction on. So stay tuned. But right now it's before staff to kind of understand and ask questions and clarify, get some clarification, but also some representatives of the State Department of Land Conservation and Development, because this is supported by a grant. They have a review authority and participation as well. So stay tuned.
You guys are weeding through it to limit it, just give us something that's a little bit more.
And there will need to be a strategy involved.
Yeah.
This is I wish I should have brought it in here. It's a 30-page spreadsheet of amendments. So I think what we need to do is strategize, and I think that's going to be a component of it.
How many pages at each meeting or whatever?
How do we want to
30
compartmentalize
yeah.
these and carry them forward? So I think, we'll certainly make them into digestible components of it. And some of which will carry forward with adoption through this grant process. Others that we can have on the ready, not to shelve them long term, but bring them forward in different.
Is quite a bit of it you just redacted? I mean, is it not relevant to us, all of it? I mean, all of it's relevant, I get, but it's.
Most of it, yeah. But I think a lot of them are going to be recommendations. With many of the state statutes now kind of apply to communities of different sizes, from 10 to 25 to 100,000 people. We fall below that on all of it, but it'll be a policy decision, direction from Planning Commission, but ultimately a decision from the council on what, even not required, what do we want to carry forward to accommodate additional housing. So
you can give us here's a list of these are all maybes.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that group at once, and then.
Right. I think, and less discussion about you shall.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be required to incorporate. Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that's great. Kind of leading into the conversation of kind of breaking these down into smaller digestible amendment packages.
I have a follow-up question. Are those lessons learned being applied to the annexation ordinance that we're currently working on?
You
Or
say
is there anything from that that would affect the language in our new code?
We'll
Take a look at that.
Okay.
Nothing jumps to mind.
Curious.
that it's considered, yeah. I mean, this landed on our desks just a couple of days ago, so we're just working our way through it.
Has Luba made a decision yet on the, or when is that happening? I forgot, you told us.
We've heard that they will be issuing a decision sometime in the next few weeks.
Okay. That's on the other,
We're talking about the McKenzie Meadows.
Oh, yeah.
The appeal of McKenzie Meadows.
Got it.
So,
I thought it was supposed to happen before the 27th.
it's supposed to.
okay, nothing else, we're adjourned.
Thank you.